All right, Wes, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joyce. Good morning, everyone. So, yep, can't see me, which I enjoy, but hopefully you can see the PowerPoint presentation. So just a little bit about my background first. So again, my name is Wes Higuchi. I'm the Chief Lending Officer here at the Maui County Credit Union. I've been in lending on Maui for about 30 years now. 10 years here at the credit union, and then 20 years at Finance Factors prior to that. And then my philosophy for our credit union is really being here for our members and helping them with their finances and not just with their loans. And so when we were asked to do something for the college, I really jumped at the opportunity because I think it's something that, especially now, is really important. So most of what I'll be going over, isn't rocket science or isn't anything really heavy into details of finance, but I think it's things that if we pay attention to, that will really help us through the pandemic. So just wanted to go over some key economic numbers that have come out recently. So in 2019, we had about 10 million visitors statewide, and they're estimating that to decrease by 67% for 2020. And actually, if you look at month-over-month counts, we're down in some cases like 98%. And this is with these estimates is when they thought we'd open up to tourism or flights in August, and we all know that's already been postponed till September and maybe postponed even further.
Excuse me,
So I
Wes.
guess what we're saying is, oh, go ahead.
Your PowerPoint is not moving.
Oh, it's not moving?
No.
Okay.
We're still on the front page.
Oh, thank you. Okay, how about now? It's still not moving?
It hasn't.
Hasn't? Okay, let me try it again. Okay. Says let's stop sharing.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me know if it does that. So, and what they're saying is it's going to take probably 5 or 6 years and maybe longer to return to the 2019 count for visitors. And maybe in the next 2 or 3 years, we'll get back to about 80, 90% of 2019 numbers. So the economic impact is going to last a while. And then for Maui County hotel occupancy, again, month over month from June 2019 to June 2020, down over 90%. And then the revenue per available room, we're down about 95%. Unemployment, most of you have seen these numbers. So in 2019, Maui County averaged about 2.6% for the year. And in May, when we were in the middle of the lockdown, we're at 34%, and June we're still at 22, 23%. And then I compared those numbers to when we had the Great Recession, and we're much higher even than those years. And again, not expected to come down to where we were for a while. And then Bank of Hawaii did this survey for Maui, actually for state residents, and then they broke it out by county, and these are just some things that were answered by Maui County residents. And so what Joyce is going to do is she's going to email the presentation to everyone after, so you can look at this in more detail. I want to point out, like, households worried about the second item, being able to afford basic necessities, over 50%. And what does this mean for us? That if you are feeling this financial stress, of course, we're not alone. Maui is actually impacted more than the other islands. And because we won't get back to normal for a while, what can we do now? And the what can we do now is not just, again, for the next few months. It's really probably going to be for the next 2 or 3 years to kind of navigate this economic situation. And when I say that, it's not just, of course, for the county, it's for us individually. How do we navigate this? So for today's agenda, just want to always remind ourselves that as long as we continue to work together as a community, that we will pull through this, and we will pull through this, I believe, well, if we work together as a community. Although today's presentation is about financial health, is just a reminder that we need to continue to take care of our physical, emotional, and spiritual health as well. And then when we get into our financial strategies during the pandemic, it still is going to be doing a lot of the same things, but just really being more creative. And whenever we talk about developing our financial strategies, we really always want to start with what's important to us, right? What are our values? And then from there, develop our strategies. And then after we develop our strategies, it's now how are we really spending our money, right? Is our spending in line with what our strategies are? And if not, then we revise our budget. We always review what we're doing as far as saving and investing. I want to talk a little bit about scams because there are actually more scams going out now related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then be ready for more changes. As all of you know, especially in the beginning and still now, every day, every week, there's changes on what needs to be done work-wise and then home-wise and finance-wise. Now, I like to think about kind of this financial journey that we all have as a journey and going down a pathway to where we want to end up financially. But everyone now who's alive today has never experienced something like we're going through today. So it's all uncharted roads or uncharted waters. And so we all are kind of learning as we go. But if we work together again as a community, we'll go through it. We have to be ready to continue to process all this new information that's coming at us, that there will be twists and turns. There'll be more twists and turns coming up. And so just be ready for different kind of scenarios and be ready to make adjustments. And then what I've seen in the community is already just really neat things about people in the community pulling together and helping each other out financially with food drives, with other types of help, and I know that will continue within our community. Okay, take care of our total health. Second bullet point, don't overload on COVID-19 news and actually news in general. That's one thing that kind of sometimes paralyzes us from doing more when we kind of get this overload of information. Limit our social media, limit screen time, and if you can, just take a day off or take several days off just to unplug from everything and recharge ourselves and just kind of reset ourselves for what's going on. Spend time outside. We're not supposed to be out a lot, but just find time and a way to spend time outside. And we've already probably done this during the pandemic, just evaluate our home environments, work environments, really to be the most effective and beneficial for our health going forward. And keep on connecting with people. Just talk to Joyce. I guess a lot of you are still working on campus, which is great, so you can interact with people, but if you're at home, yeah, still connect with people. We need to connect with each other. Okay, so our financial health starts with our values. And I think Joyce mentioned that if you have questions, and I see one, you can use the chat box. And you can also just unmute yourself and jump in, stop me anytime. That's totally fine. And we'll try to address what we can. So again, we want this presentation to be something that's going to be beneficial for us going forward. And I realize, and we all realize, this is just a 45-minute, 50-minute presentation. But how can we use this to really help us going forward? So what I think Joyce has sent to everybody is just a simple spreadsheet that I just did quickly that set up so when you print it, it's not on different tabs. It'll just print on 2 pages. On one side is our values and goals, and the other side is a budget that's kind of tailored for what we're going through now. So if you can look at the values and goals side, and I'm sure all of you have done this before, is just identify, write down what's important to you, right? What kind of values are important to you? And then based on our values, what are some goals we have? So we may say, like for me, spending less time at work and more time with my family to exercise better. And then we take those goals and then ask ourselves, the third step is now based on these goals that are in alignment with my values, how should I spend my time? And how should I spend my money? Right? What resources should I put towards these different areas? And as you do that, then you're determining this long-term financial strategy, that if I want to be able to retire at a certain age, what's my financial strategy for that? Question that came out is what happens if there's going to be a strike or a furlough? And we need to plan for that, because that is a real possibility. And then as I develop this, how can I hold myself accountable? Is there someone that I can meet with regularly to see if I'm on track? Or can I plan for myself regularly to go over things to see if I'm on track? What's a way to make things easy and automatic for me? And then continue to monitor your progress. So our budget. So the other side is our budget. And the one thing I tell people in financial counseling, if you can just remember this one thing, you'll be all right financially as far as financial health. And that one thing is to spend less than you earn, spend less than you make. And it sounds really simple, but unfortunately, in our American society, we're not taught this. We're not taught to really stick to this from a young age. And many of us are actually taught to spend more than we make. Because I tell anyone that if you have debt, any kind of debt, even a mortgage, that means that you spent more than you made, and now you have to pay that back with interest. So how do we figure out a way, even now during this pandemic, to spend less than we earn? We don't have control over the pandemic. We only have control over the things we have control over, which is our own responses, our own preparation, and really our own spending behavior. And so I believe that more than ever before, that everyone who's part of a household needs to have a written budget, and a written budget that they monitor regularly. And so if you go to the other side of that spreadsheet, where we have that budget sheet, is just a way to track a monthly. What we tell people is you need to know where your money is coming from, and you need to know where your money is going. And to do that, we have to document it. We have to write it down. It's a chore, I know, to do, but it's super important to do. So the example I like to use is my wife used to be a preschool director at our church's preschool, and they have 72 kids at the preschool. So I tell people, imagine that you had 72 kids coming to your preschool and you never took attendance. But all you know is every morning kids come in and you teach them and you take care of them, and every afternoon at 5 o'clock all the kids are gone, and so you did okay. And of course no one would send their child to a preschool that didn't take attendance of who was there, kept track of when they left, and they knew exactly who was there at all times, and they do that every day. And it's the same thing that we need to do with our budget. Every month, we need to know where is our money coming in from, right? Kind of like the kids coming into school. And I know this is how much money I have. This is how many kids I have right now. And then as I spend the money, it's like with the kids going back home. Do I know where that money is going? And then is that money going where I want it to go? And so if you look at where your money is coming from, different scenarios. So one of the scenarios that I did want to talk about is how do you prepare for a possible furlough or strike or reduced hours or pay cuts? How much might our pay get cut by if I'm furloughed? Is there unemployment options for me at that point or not? And what income would be coming in at that point? And yes, so the income is reduced, and if our goal is to spend less than we make, how are we going to do that? And it's making these kind of strategies and thinking about them ahead of time. And so if it doesn't happen, if there are no furloughs, then I'm fine. But if there is a furlough, I've already prepared for it. I already looked at my options on if my income gets cut by 20%, I cannot afford to live and spend the way I've been living and spending right now. It just isn't going to work. And so what's going to work? And so one of the things that I'll talk about a little later is just kind of being ready to make those hard decisions ahead of time. Our members have come in where, you know, both spouses have been out of work for months. And so how can we help them? And it is really difficult, but we just have to address it the best we can. Unemployment benefits, if you know people who aren't working, right? The federal government stopped that $600 extra. What is it going to look like going forward? Is that $300 more? Is it continuing $400? Again, look at those different scenarios and put it in this income area, print out a few of these for each scenario and see what needs to be done to make the budgets work. Because the numbers don't lie. The numbers are just reflecting what our spending behavior was if we're looking at past information or historical information, but it's also looking at where are our numbers or our spending behavior going to be, where is it going to be going forward. Are there ways that I can increase my income? Maybe there's no part-time jobs available. Are there other community or government assistance programs? The county website has some really good links on their COVID-19 area for assistance. Can I see what's available there? I've had members that have told me, again, about just having to sell things so that they can pay for certain bills. You know, things like coupons or cash. It's just like, just be really creative again on where can additional income or additional buying power come from. And then where is your money going? So again, and I'll say this or kind of repeatedly, is that how do we spend less than we make? How do we spend less than we earn? Is it in alignment with my values and my goals? And then on the spreadsheet, what we separated in is on a must-have column and a good-to-have column. And then in each column, prioritize. So even though it's a must-have, is there a way, if I need to, that I can reduce any of these costs? Is there a way, if I need to, that I can eliminate any of these costs? Just talked to someone today about them having to cancel their cell phones for their family because they can't afford it. And it's kind of a must-have nowadays, but at some point, if you don't have the income, you have to cut more and more, of course. And then be mindful right now about making big purchases. Be mindful about creating any new debt right now, because again, if we look at that economic data, what it's telling us is things are going to stay like this for a while. And so we need to be prepared to go through this for the long term or for a longer term. So when I look at this list of must-haves and good-to-haves, on the must-haves as far as debt, a lot of people are being able to defer loan payments. A lot of our members have needed to defer loan payments. And I just always remind them that when you defer a payment, whether it's a loan payment or utility payment, is not being forgiven, right? All you're doing is you're pushing that payment back till later, and it still needs to be paid. And so we may really think about it. Do we want to defer that payment, or do we want to stop it somehow so we don't have that big bill 3 months from now, or do we just want to pay it if we are able to pay it? I did a presentation, I think at the college a year or so ago, where I talked about 3 things that are considered must-haves today, that when I was younger, no one had it. And these 3 things add up to about $500 a month. And those 3 things are cable, cell phones, we just talked about cell phones, and home internet or home Wi-Fi. And so, yeah, it's pretty required today, but when I was younger, nobody had those 3 things, and we still survived. So at some point, it may get to that. Okay, credit costs. So my job is dealing with loans. I've been doing that for a long time. And when I look at people's loan applications, I notice that in our county, many people spend about 30 to 50% of their income on debt payments, 30 to 50%. And of course, that includes your mortgage payment. But what would happen to your budget or our budget if we had no debt? And that'd be amazing, right? No debt, that'd be amazing. So how do we plan, in my mind, to help more people to have less debt, right? If we have that debt, we can't withstand emergencies as easily. And in my other presentation I went over, I won't have time today, but as far as interest costs, people don't realize how much interest they pay on loans. I mean, it is tens and tens of thousands of dollars a year for some people, right? If you look at that, just all the interest you pay on all the loans that you have. So how do we lower our credit costs or our debt costs? Number 1 is have as little debt as possible. So don't create new debt, pay down the debt that you have, and you'll end up paying less in interest. Number 2 is have a good interest rate on all your debt. And so the best way to have a good interest rate is to have a good credit score. So just really quickly, we have an app, most places have an app that you can monitor your credit. Easiest, I guess, advice on maintain a good credit score is pay your bills on time and don't have too many bills, and your credit score should be pretty good. Utilize loan assistance programs if you need to. Talk to your lenders to find out what programs they have available. If you have credit card debt, it may make sense. So for a lot of these, as far as the details of it, you really need to talk with someone for your specific situation. A lot of people are refinancing their mortgages right now because interest rates are so low. But I always advise people to really look at, and whoever you're working with on your mortgage refinance, or we can help you with that too, is really look at it to see if it's really saving you money over the long term. Right? So let's say you already had your mortgage for 10 years, and you talk to a loan officer and they say they can reduce your payment by $400 a month. And you think that's great. And they say, I can even get you additional cash out. And you think that's great. But really, how much more interest are you going to pay on that new loan in comparison to how much interest you still were going to pay on your existing loan? And just compare that, just so we're having this good information when we're making our decisions. I always tell people, looking at your monthly payment on a loan is not the best way to determine if that's the best loan for you. The lowest payment is not necessarily the best choice. And then be careful about new debt. Be careful tapping into your equity, because now you're securing your home as collateral for these loans. Then do what it takes to balance your budget, right? Simple math. You write down your total income, you write down all your expenses, and there's quite a lot of categories that I put in there for us to use. And what if, when you get to the bottom, your expenses are more than your income? We have to do something, right? Either increase our income or lower expenses. And we just have to be creative, but we also have to make the hard decisions and the hard choices. I've talked to many members where either they're ashamed to come in to talk to us because they can't pay their loan, and then by the time they talk to us, it's really too late, right? Their loan now is 3 or 4 months behind. Their other bills are behind. Where if we had talked to them, 4 or 6 months earlier and helped them prepare for things, maybe we could have come up with a better solution at that time. The biggest cost for almost every household is housing expense. And so, with the pandemic, income is cut so much for many people. We have to look at our housing situation. Do we need to consider maybe other living arrangements, meaning living with family or getting a roommate or whatever it is? Because again, the economic impact of this pandemic is not going to be over in 6 months. This is going to be long lasting, and maybe we're doing okay now, but just be ready to make these decisions that if we need to make them. Do I have a child in private school? What do I need to consider for that? Right? All these choices we just really have to look at. Okay, review savings and investing. So I think one of the questions as far as where should you invest now, and for those who are still able to save or save for retirement, before you do that, I always tell people, just build an emergency savings first. Right? We all should have some type of emergency savings fund. What would it be like if people in our community had 6 months of emergency savings before the pandemic started? Right? How much better could we, as a community, gone through this? If you are contributing to your 401k or an IRA, don't stop. Right? If there's any way for you to not stop, don't stop putting monies into your 401k. It really impacts your long-term balances in those funds. And if you take monies out, if you understand like how compound interest works, is taking the money out now, what you're losing is a whole lot more than what you're taking out now. And even if the government has eliminated the early penalty withdrawal, you still have to pay taxes on that. So if you can leave it in, if you can keep on contributing, keep on doing that. Okay, as far as what kind of investment advisor or where to invest your money right now, a lot of people move money out of stocks and then put it into a safer fund. I'm not an investment professional, but I tell people it's like, if your house price went down, is that when you'd want to sell your house? And the answer is no. So if your stock price goes down, is that when you want to sell your stocks? Talk to a professional advisor. but the answer is probably not. And then make sure that the advisor is a fiduciary advisor, that one that is mandated to consider your best interests. A lot of us understand that, you know, financial advisors, a lot of them, they make their money on commissions on selling you certain products. So just make sure it's a fiduciary. And then any advisor that you talk to, they should be asking you these questions, right? What's your long-term goals? What's your time horizon? How much time do you have to accomplish those goals? What's your risk tolerance, right? Are you willing to take more risk to accomplish your goals because you don't have that much time? And then be able to explain the types of investments that they're recommending. Do they help you evaluate how you allocate your investments as far as stocks and bonds and cash and different kind of stock funds? It shouldn't be someone that's just taking your money and investing it and you have no idea what they're doing. Okay, I do want to spend a little bit of time on these scams that are going around. We think that we'll never fall for it. In our credit union, we've had a number of people that have fallen for these scams, and what I found is they're always preying on the victim's emotions. So I've seen situations where all these things, that boyfriend or girlfriend that they met online, they're desperate, they're trying to get extra income because of what's going on with COVID. They're getting a better deal on rent than really they should be getting. And so because of your emotions kind of being not enabling to think really straightly, then these people fall victim for these scams. Right? No one says, I'm going to answer this phone or go to this website because I want to be scammed out of thousands of dollars. And so no one thinks it's going to happen to them. And these people that it's happened to, they're intelligent, they're educated, but for whatever reason, they fell for this scam. So what are some red flags? So if you ever come into this situation, or someone you know comes into this situation, make sure you really check it out because it's probably a scam. Number one is they send you more money than you're supposed to get. So we had many instances where this one lady, she wanted to earn some extra income, so she saw this ad to be a secret shopper. And she actually was a secret shopper in the past, so she clicked on that ad. And then she got a email from them that had the Target logo and said that, we got you a job being a secret shopper for Target. And they gave her instructions on what to do. And they said, we're going to send you a check to buy some products. And then you do your secret shopping and you send us an evaluation. So she got a cashier's check in the mail for $1,350. And they told her, oh, you know what? That $1,350, the $1,000 is for you to buy 2 $500 gift cards. The $300 is your payment for being a secret shopper, and the $50 you can donate to a local charity of your choice. And so she bought the gift cards. And they said, to prove that you bought the gift cards, we need you to take a picture of them and scratch out the back and send it to us. And she said as soon as she sent send, she thought, am I doing something that might be a scam? And of course, it was a scam. That cashier's check came back as fictitious or altered. The gift cards, the money was gone, and this lady was out that $1,000 for those gift cards. Had another one where this member of ours was got this check in the mail, and again they said it was more than what they should have paid her, and to send back the difference. So she did, and of course the check she sent back was good money, and the check that they gave her bounced later. I had one where he thought he was renting a property for cheaper than the market, and he was so sure that the property was owned by that person he was talking to. The person told him that he was the owner, I remember checked online, and yes, that was the owner's name. But he said, you know what, I'm kind of not in good terms with my wife right now, and she's not happy that I'm renting this out for so cheap. So when you give me the check for the deposit and the first month's rent, can you make it out to this other name, please? And I remember I was going to do that. But anyway, I talked him out of it, but he really thought that it wasn't a scam, even after I talked to him. Romance ones, again, people thinking that that person on the other side really loved them, and I had one lady trying to borrow $20,000 to send to her boyfriend. So again, these scams are happening. It happens here on Maui more than what we think. It doesn't make the news a lot of times, so just be aware of them. Okay, prepare for future changes. Keep up to date on resources, but again, don't overload. Again, the county website. Educate and re-educate ourselves. So a lot of the financial advice, because of the pandemic, again, it is really the same. But because of specific situations, we want to always kind of keep on top of any changes. And then plan for different scenarios. You know, plan A, plan B, plan C. I actually did this presentation a while ago, maybe about a month ago, that I put it together and said, well, there's a large spike and we need to shut down again. And it might be happening. What if this goes on for another year, which is likely? What if it goes on for 2 more years, which isn't as likely, but it still will impact us for 2 years? And how about 3 years? How do these different scenarios affect my employer? So as state and county workers, or what happens when the tax revenues are way down? And if the state has to make cuts, what happens to my household income? How do I adjust my expenses? What happens to other family members in my household? Childcare, the announcement yesterday about childcare being all distance learning for the first month. That's impacting a lot of workplaces. So again, these things are not in our control as far as what happens, but what is in our control is write down the numbers, as hard as it may look like when you write them down, you know, and then we just have to make the adjustments. And we will get through this, and it is going to be hard for our community, but I think for us as a community, we'll come out on the other end okay, but it will be difficult as we go through this together. Okay, that's my spoken part. So I don't know if there's any questions or any other comments. Oh, could you still hear? Sorry.
Yes, there's a question from someone about, oh, sorry.
Oh, emergency savings. Okay, got
Yes.
it. Okay, so yeah, thanks for that question. So emergency savings or emergency fund is it's just really a savings account that you keep separate, that you use for what we normally think of emergencies is a car breakdown, or needing to replace an appliance, or unexpected medical expense that's pretty significant. So these are things that we know will happen, but we just don't know when they'll happen. And what I see with a lot of people is instead of having a savings fund for those kinds of things, they don't, or we don't, and then something happens and there's no place to tap for that, and so they use their credit card or they take out a loan for it. And so the goal, everyone says, is to have between 3 and 6 months of your normal expenses in that emergency fund. And so how do you get that? is in the budget, on one of the others is initially is saving whatever you can. It could be $50 a month, whatever it is, and you just put that on the side and you don't touch it for anything. And then you're trying to grow that until it's eventually 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then that way, now if something like a loss of job happens, you have enough money there so you can pay your expenses for 3 to 6 months until you can get another job, or until you can, hopefully get out of that situation. Because most of these kind of really major financial emergencies shouldn't last more than 3 to 6 months. This pandemic, unfortunately, is going to be longer than that. But if you have that fund on the side, that's really important for someone's kind of financial health and financial strategy. So thank you. Okay, anything else?
Well, thank you, Wes. This was really enlightening and
Oh,
very good information. You can see on the chat, people are appreciating what you shared. I will share with everyone the recording as well as the spreadsheet again and the PowerPoint.
okay, thank you. Yep, and if anybody has like specific questions, you can call me, or yeah, it is a tough time frame we're in now, but we will get through it.